We're back. We are back. Third video, back to back to back, baby. We just covered a bunch of craziness with Elon and X. We're loving what he's doing. Can't really complain. But is there a more, kind of scary end game? Could Elon be the Antichrist? Who knows? We know with X, it's freedom of speech, but it's not freedom to be promoted, or recommended. So it might be the illusion of freedom of speech. Talked about that. We just covered transhumanism and kind of the mentality and mindset and how this has been a long time coming. ODD TV is killing it. Could that tie in also with Elon, with the Neuralink stuff, the neurochip? I mean, he's working on great stuff, good sounding, it's at face value, it's fine. But when it comes to AI information control, and it really feels like we're being set free, freedom of speech, all these awesome things going on, could there be more sinister things in play? We just covered all that. To be a big influencer, you kind of got to get in. It seems like, from what I can tell, someone who's been pretty deep down that rabbit hole myself, you got to be a part of the cabal. You kind of got to sell yourself to it. And if you're not part of that cabal, they're going to keep you suppressed, not censored anymore, but suppressed. Notice how all my YouTube videos, by the way, every time I do video, it's like flagged for misinformation, but they were taking my videos down. Now they're not. So at the same and on Twitter, it's just like, it's not going to probably come up on searches. I don't know. Even though I've been a pro Elon guy, but now I'm starting to wonder. This guy, ODD TV, who we're going to do another video. This is a banger, eye opener. He did this over 3 years ago. He's way ahead of his time on this. And I think he got censored. So he talks about pharmaceuticals and the vaccines, which we know there's a vaccine promoting cabal out there. Okay. And there's been trillions of dollars made, and we know all that. Whereas this is just part one of his videos. The other one was taken down. I think they just kind of like shut him down as a channel. That's why we haven't seen him do videos for like 3 years, 2 or 3 years. But his videos are so good. Anyways, so man, it's so good. So this is a big eye opener. It's a banger. Here we go. I'm going to play this at normal speed because it's just a banger. So every time you hear something bleeped out, it's vaccine, the word vaccine. And all of this is kind of tying into what the hell's the meaning of life. We ended the last video on that with the transhumanism. Why the hell are we here? Is it Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago? Is it Hinduism? Is it Muslim? Is it Jesus? Are we in a simulation? Who the hell knows? What's the point of life? What are we doing? Why are we here? Are we just here to be a product? Like a bee in a beehive running around like the busy bee and become transhuman. It's like, how can we just float through life? Blah, blah, blah. What the hell's the point of life? What is the meaning of life? Why are we here? Jesus, if it's you, are you real? Well, why aren't the promises in scriptures real? Hello? What's real? Where are we? What's going on? All right. It all ties in.
ODD TV.
Pharmakeia, drugs and black magic in the end times.
Be sober. Be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour.
What is Pharmakeia? Pharmakeia is a form of the Greek root word from which we get our English words pharmacy, pharmacist, and pharmaceutical. According to Vine's Expository Dictionary, the definition of pharmakeia is the use of medicine, drugs, and spells, poisoning, and sorcery. Strong's Concordance backs this up with its similar list of definitions. The use or the administering of drugs, poisoning, sorcery, magical arts, often found in connection with idolatry and fostered by it, the deceptions and seductions of idolatry. The Bible makes use of the word pharmakeia 3 times, once in Galatians as witchcraft, and twice in Revelation as sorceries. Let's quickly go over Galatians 5:20. We will read verses 16 through 21 to get a better grasp on what's being said.
This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusteth against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. But if ye be led of the Spirit, ye are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, hatred, variance, emulation.
Idolatry there is witchcraft. Oh, witchcraft. So we were just talking about this. You have the works of the flesh, strength in the flesh, trying to attain God, trying to obey his law. It's like our own wisdom, our own strength, being somebody special to God doesn't work in his kingdom. You trying to make it to God, you trying to be a good person. Okay, that's the works of the flesh. And the law, if you're trying to follow God, the law, you're just going to have, it says, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not have fornication, uncleanliness, lasciviousness, idolatry, hatred. These are all from the flesh, and that's what you'll be dealing with when you don't have in the new covenant the Spirit of God that comes in you, makes you a new person, a new creature, a new creation, born of God, where you no longer live, but Christ lives in you. The reality and the power, walking in the Spirit. I say this then, walk in the Spirit, and you will not fulfill the lust of the flesh. It has power over the flesh. Because your old man, your old self is dead, you become a new creature, a new creation, born of God, where you no longer live, but Christ lives in you. And it's an actual, effectual relationship with the living and active God. That's what it's supposed to be. Where's it at? The power of Christ? Hello? All right.
Idolatry, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I've also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God.
Here, the word witchcraft denotes the use of drugs as a lust of the flesh.
A lust of the flesh. Drugs becoming a lust of the flesh. That's happened. So he's so ahead of his time on this with the vaccines too. This was over 3 years ago.
Now let's have a look at Revelation 18:23. Let's quickly read verses 21 through 24.
And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians, and of pipers and trumpeters, shall be heard no more at all in thee. And no craftsman of whatsoever craft he be shall be found any more in thee. And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee. And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of prophets, and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth.
This part of Revelation tells us that Babylon will deceive all nations with the use or administration of drugs. Is anyone making the connection yet? Bill Gates. Though these evils are not officially classified as a drug, the dictionary definition of the word drug definitely applies to sneeze, a substance used in the diagnosis, treatment, or prevention of a disease or as a component of a medication. Every major pharmaceutical company in the world is whipping up toxic chemical concoctions that they can label as when you think about it, all the Hollywood tropes and cliches, like the way they portray fictitious witches when creating magic potions, isn't too far off from reality when drug companies create a new vaccine. Some ingredients in these, as listed by the CDC on their website, include aluminum, which causes Alzheimer's disease, formaldehyde, aka embalming fluid, thimerosal, which contains 49.6% mercury, acetone, which is a solvent and nail polish remover, plus many other highly questionable chemicals. These are toxins which are never to be consumed orally, but in sneeze they are injected directly into the body. Also used in vaccines are and animal parts, including those from chickens, pigs, dogs, monkeys, horses, rabbits, cows, etc. Is this not a veritable witch's brew of chemicals, organisms, and animal parts? Basically, pharmacy mixes up different types of poison, patents it, packages it, and claims that it can treat certain diseases. The main problem with that system is that poison is poison. Pharmaceutical drugs and vaccines are extremely toxic, and when introduced into the body, have negative effects on the system from head to toe. These are not just side effects or unintended sicknesses or diseases. These are direct effects because these things don't belong in the body to begin with, so putting them in there is going to directly affect it. Paracelsus. Known as the father of toxicology, Paracelsus was an avid occultist who thought that metals such as mercury, lead, tin, copper, and gold could purify the body. He would often try to heal people from disease using quicksilver, also known as mercury. Many died as a result of the treatment given by Paracelsus. Yet today, we still see things like mercury in our vaccines. That's actually because of Paracelsus. Besides him being a physician and a philosopher, he was also a metallurgist and a hardcore alchemist, and that's why he was so intent on using metals in his work as a physician. The main objectives of alchemy are to transmute base metals like lead and mercury into gold, to find a universal cure for all ailments, to find a universal solvent that could break down anything, including gold, and finally, to find an elixir to prolong life. A highly sought-after object known as the Philosopher's Stone could assist with all of these goals. Another sought-after substance in alchemy is what's called azoth. Defined as the universal remedy of Paracelsus, azoth was considered to be a universal medication or universal solvent, and was sought for in alchemy. Similar to another alchemical idolized substance, alkahest, azoth was the aim, goal, and vision of many alchemical works. Its symbol was the caduceus. The term, while originally a term for an occult formula sought by alchemists, much like the Philosopher's Stone, became a poetic word for the element mercury. Keep this all in mind. I found some incredible connections to do with all of this information. Medicinal symbols. The bowl of Hygeia is one of the most widely recognized symbols of pharmacy. In Greek mythology, Hygeia is the daughter and assistant of Aesculapius, the god of medicine and healing. Hygeia's symbol consists of a bowl containing a medicinal potion with the serpent of wisdom drinking from it. The serpent of wisdom also appears on the rod of Aesculapius, which is the symbol of medicine. Aesculapius is the Greek god of medicine and son of Apollo. In the United States, the caduceus is commonly used as the symbol for the healthcare industry, even though it's associated with the Greek god Hermes and has nothing to do with medicine. Skilled in persuasion and bartering, and also known as a trickster, Hermes is the patron of merchants, traders, thieves, liars, and gamblers. But here's where it gets crazy. It's 100%, absolutely, positively, no accident that the caduceus is used as the symbol of medicine in the divided states of Zombieland and some other places
The divided states of Zombieland.
too, but it's abundant in the US. Have a look at the image of Baphomet. There's a caduceus representing its male anatomy. Baphomet is androgynous, meaning it's both male and female. It's a hermaphrodite. The word hermaphrodite comes from Hermaphroditus, who was the son of Hermes and the goddess of love known as Aphrodite, also known as Mercury and Venus. Hermaphroditus was one day physically merged with his wife, resulting in a body that was equally both male and female in nature. Here's an image of Hermaphroditus, or simply,
He showed Michelle Obama as that person. We can cover that because Michelle Obama is a dude. Michael.
hermaphrodite in some old alchemical occult literature, and there's a snake in one hand and 3 snakes in a chalice in the other. Its father, Hermes, aka Mercury, carries a caduceus, which also symbolizes the phallus of the Baphomet, and the Baphomet is a representation of what's known as the Great Work in alchemy. On its arms are the words solve and coagula, which is the alchemical process. It basically means broken down and rebuilt. Everything connects and ties together so perfectly here. It gets even crazier, I can't lie. I blew my own mind working on this project. I'm not saying I'm the first one to figure this out, but I did indeed figure this out on my own with no prior knowledge to any of it. So check this out. One of the goals of the satanic ruling class is to make society sexless and doing away with traditional men and women. This, in turn, is a form of depopulation and a clever way to gradually destroy the family unit. They are achieving this through the use of everyday products that contain hormone disruptors, aka endocrine disruptors, which are chemicals that interfere with the body's endocrine system and produce adverse developmental, reproductive, neurological, and immune effects in both humans and wildlife. The damage is believed to be most severe during prenatal or early pregnancy exposure.
From the day of conception until an individual is born or hatched, the development of each stage of life is fully under the control of hormones. Changes that happen during development are far less reversible than those occurring in an adult. You can't go back and rewire the brain.
Also thought to have the ability to disrupt hormones and confuse the body are WI38 is the cell lines from a female used to cultivate viruses used in vaccines. When you inject the DNA from a female carrying 2 X chromosomes into a male who already carries 1 X chromosome and a weaker Y chromosome, you get an overload of X chromosome, which makes males believe they are actually females. MRC5 is the cell lines from a male, and this can affect girls in the same way. Whether it's the bowl of Hygeia, the rod of Aesculapius, or the caduceus, It's rather fitting that snakes are used as the symbol for medicine, since it was a serpent that deceived Eve in the Garden of Eden. Not to mention Revelation 12:9 says, "And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world." It all ties together. Here, Satan is clearly established as the serpent that deceives the whole world. Revelation 18:23 again states that, "For by thy Pharmakeia were all nations deceived." And Pharmakeia is represented by a snake, or snakes if you live in the divided states. Plus, snakes are always present whenever a hermaphrodite is portrayed. Not to mention the caduceus is toted by Hermes, also known as Mercury, which has been put in people's bodies since the time of Paracelsus. Pretty much everything that we've gone over stems from Greek mythos and traditions, and I haven't even mentioned the Hippocratic Oath that all new physicians take when they finally become a doctor. So that's about it for part 1. From the looks of it, we are literally living in the middle of an event of biblical proportions. Stay tuned for part 2, where I'll go over drugs and the people that use them and abuse them. Drugs and alcohol leave users vulnerable to demonic attack, oppression, and even possession, but always under demonic influence. The term "under the influence" doesn't mean the substance itself. You are under the influence of spiritual wickedness and will do things that you would never normally do when you're sober. Why do you think alcohol is referred to as spirits?
The majority of people believe that vaccines are safe and effective. They think that anyone who dares to question the CDC or the WHO about these kinds of medical practices are completely insane. And I mean, yep, a lot of people were calling this out, but man, according to them, everything in this video is total nonsense. Yep.
This has been ODD. See you guys on the next one.
But the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober, and watch unto prayer.
It's really good. And so I'm assuming his part 2 was removed because, yeah. So it says in scripture that Satan has deceived the whole world. You know what I mean? In Revelation, it's like we're all deceived. And it's just crazy, the shit show that we're living in. We hit on vaccines hard, on the vaccine promoting cabal out there.
Today,
let's hit a little harder. I was going to do a video just for the COVID vaccines. But since our last vaccine video, there's a few more here that we can talk about real quick. So Satan has deceived the whole world. We're all deceived. Where is it? Okay. And man, it's wild. And we've resorted to, the Christians have resorted to black words on a white page, fine sounding arguments, fine sounding sermons, strapping your boots on tight and trying to be the best person you can be to make it to heaven or whatever. And instead of becoming like a child, humbling ourselves, being a servant of all with the golden rule and the power of the Spirit that transforms us into the image of Christ. And it's powerless. Now, some people, do claim they walk in this. But I don't know. Never in history, I don't feel, has it been more needed to have the reality of the power of Jesus It's like, what's real? Why are we here? What's reality? Why the hell are we here, people? What's going on? What's the point of life?
All right, you guys, this one's going to be a little bit controversial, but please don't shoot the messenger. I'm just here to give new information. This is a huge, groundbreaking topic for a lot of parents, but as of right now, it's the most current, up-to-date information that we have. So as of last week on the 23rd, a new research study came out. This is peer-reviewed, talking about the links between autism and vaccination. Now, this is a peer-reviewed clinical research study that was done. And if you want to read the whole research study itself, just Google this and it'll come right up. But I'm just going to break down if you want to pause to look at these graphs, and then we'll talk about them. So these graphs are showing the direct correlation between vaccinating your children and the neurodevelopment disorders that they can have. This graph in particular is regarding autism. And as you can see, what they found is it goes higher, higher, higher the more vaccinations that they have. So neurodevelopment disorders are not just autism. They can be any of these things. But there is such an ongoing fight on whether vaccines cause autism or if there's any sort of correlation between the two. And according to this specific study, they are related. Now, with autism specifically, they are suggesting a dose-response relationship between the vaccinations and autism. And they did also go in depth with preterm babies, and they were significantly more susceptible to any sort of neurological disorders when they were vaccinated compared to the kids that were not vaccinated. Again, this is a hot topic that a lot of people say it's just genetic, but this is the study itself, the most recent up-to-date information. And I think this graph in particular is the most important because it lists out all the neurodevelopmental disorders, this ASD one being autism. Let me know your thoughts.
So you're much more likely to have those disorders if you are vaxxed. It's big. And I see these studies come out every week, more and more and more and more. So hopefully RFK gets in there. Let's make vaccines great again, right? I don't know. It's just wild.
I know people who say it's genetic are a ride or die on that hill, which yes, I think it can be genetic. But like I said, this is the newest up-to-date information from a peer-reviewed clinical research study.
I mean, we keep seeing these more and more. In a million years, I would not take the flu shot, and I'll tell you why. The flu shot gives you... Okay, let's just watch the video.
Would not take the flu shot, and in a million years, I would not take the flu shot, and I'll tell you why. Because this is what Cochrane and BMJ have found. People who take the flu shot are protected against that strain of flu. They're 4.4 times more likely to get a non-flu infection. And you might find, and a lot of people do, that they get the flu shot and then they get sick. They're usually not getting the flu. They're getting something that is indistinguishable from the flu because the flu shot gives you something called pathogenic priming. It injures your immune system so that you're more likely to get a non-flu viral upper respiratory infection. In fact, the Pentagon published a story, and you can cite this, it's by Wolfe, W-O-L-F-E, in January of this year, in which they said that the flu shot not only primes you for flu, but it primes you for coronavirus. If you get, they had a placebo group and they had a vaccine group because they wanted for military readiness to see if the flu shot was prophylactic against coronavirus. What they found is actually the people who got the flu shot were 36% more likely to get coronavirus. And that's not a lone study. We found 6 other major studies that say the same thing. If you get the flu shot, you're more likely to get coronavirus. You know,
and there's been several studies that show if you get the coronavirus vaccine, you're more likely to get coronavirus. Yeah. I mean, every one of these RNA viruses, SRS2 influenza, measles, mumps, can be dealt with through early treatment. Event 201 published a few months before the breakout in China was all I needed to know what was coming. One thing to think about is that no matter how to put it, Trump was in power during the push. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And so the narrative is Trump had bad people around him like Bill Gates and Anthony Fauci and the vaccine promoting cabal that all of like Congress has become practically. And that, you know, Trump was just trying to be like positive and make it happen. And, you know, he did Operation Warp Speed, you know, and it was like Trump being naive and then got played. That's the narrative, right? And so, but, yep, what you just said, yeah. Okay, Event 201. Before the breakout in China. So I know that they were saying they were warning us of a pandemic multiple times, and they are right now warning us of another pandemic. Basically, Bill Gates said, we can't have RFK get in there or there's going to be another pandemic. Like I don't know. Oh, okay. Okay, here's another one.
Has actually come out. So unless you've been living under a rock, you have to have heard about this by now. How a study has actually come out linking vaccinations to things like autism and ASD and ADHD. I know.
Is this the same study? It might be.
So many moms out there, me included, are jumping for joy on this one because more parents deserve to know this. So this study was done on children enrolled in the Florida State Medicaid program from 1999 to 2011. So for those of you that might not be aware, the rates of neurodevelopmental disorders like autism and ADHD increased more than tenfold in the 1980s. That was right around the same time they started introducing this crazy vaccine schedule, and it only got worse from there. But let's just get right to the good stuff. So the conclusions of this study were that vaccinated children were significantly more likely than unvaccinated children to be diagnosed with the following neurodevelopmental disorders. Things like ASD, tic disorders, learning disorders, epilepsy, even seizures. What they also found was that number of vaccinations actually increased likelihood of these as well. So children with just one vaccination visit were 1.7 times more likely to have been diagnosed with ASD than the unvaccinated. And as it increased, those with 11 or more visits were 4.4 times more likely to be diagnosed with ASD than those without any visits. They could only hide the truth for so long, and I know that this is only the beginning. It's time for us to wake up and do the research for ourselves. We deserve it, and our children deserve it.
Yep. And so, I mean, this is just coming out all day long.
Thousands of tribal girls without proper study and paperwork.
India was among the hardest hit after Bollywood celebrities were incentivized by the Gates Foundation to urge the public to submit to mass vaccinations.
I think I showed this on, I've got a 3-hour long vaccine video. I think I showed that one. So Yeah, we hit on all this hard already, but it's interesting. If you just came in, start over, 2x speed, really good stuff. So it appears, that the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum and Bill Gates, they've all said it's like the biggest problem on earth is overpopulation. They're trying to depopulate the earth. They're also trying to keep us stupid sheep. And it ties into the videos we did earlier on transhumanism and everything going on. And it's just, God, such a shit show. What the hell is the point of being alive here on Earth, people? Man. I'm tired. I think I'll call it. It's, it's like all the information. We can't trust anything at all. Even with X and Elon, I love what he's doing. I watched it in real time. Elon bought X and bought Twitter and, just brought free speech back and common sense back to the world. But was it all just a psyop all along? So that now the power, it's like there are saviors, essentially. And a ploy to have us duped into thinking free speech, but really to be an influencer, you got to join the influencer cabal. And they have all the data in the world for AI, for Neuralink, for transhumanism. And so it's like, man, people are just like, we're all just a bunch of sheep being duped on every turn with our phones, and there's not really much of a solution. Come to Jesus, okay, but it needs to be real. It's got to be reality. The scriptures need the living and active God in power coming into our lives in reality. And it's just like crazy. This whole life, our lives here on earth is such a nightmare. Boy, do we need a fresh wind of life giving reality. And it feels like that with Trump. It feels like that. And so we're here for it. Everything he's doing, getting all the corruption out of here, bringing in all the people like RFK, who's going to, all the poison in our food and vaccines and just all the insanity everywhere in the farming and our vegetables and everything we buy at the grocery store. We're going to get back to, I don't know. I hope so. This life is crazy. Love you guys. We'll talk more on this. I'm tired. My brain wasn't firing on all cylinders tonight. I'll give you that. This is my third video, but even the last one, it didn't quite deliver the way I wanted it to, but it's all good. We'll keep going. Crypto Viking. I love you guys. Love you guys. Peace out, baby.